Welcome to the Tilted Halo, the place for women of faith and leadership who know that we're not perfect, yet boldly lead anyway. Whether you serve in ministry, business, or life, this show is here to encourage you, remind you that you're not alone, and help you lead with confidence, gratitude, and God's grace. Now, let's get started. Welcome to another episode of The Tilted Halo. And yes, I am your host, Pastor Kathleen Panning, and I am absolutely delighted to have as my guest today, Carrie K.C. West. Carrie is the founder of the Life Rewritten System. I have trouble saying that word for some reason, and an award-winning author of Life Rewritten and Money Rewritten. She helps people recognize the hidden narratives shaping their lives and consciously choose new ones. Some people call that reframing, but, consciously choosing a new ones. Her approach blends story analysis, emotional awareness, and practical tools. Very good things. Clients leave strengthened in their own insights, not dependent on hers, because the point is not to follow her story. It's to reclaim yours. So, Carrie, welcome to the Tilted Halo.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the name, The Tilted Halo. Love it.
There's a whole story behind how that came about. But one of the things I always start my shows with is asking my guests to share some of their story so that we get to know who you are better. So please share what you can and will about your story.
Okay. Well, I did not have a great beginning. In fact, I had a pretty bad start to life. And by the time I hit my 20s, I was in such bad shape that I was drinking constantly, acting out in terrible relationships. So many times I drove around drunk and I have no recollection of how I even got home. And it was frightening to think I not only could have hurt myself, I could have hurt somebody else. And I realized that if I didn't do something to shift my life, I wasn't going to make it to my 30s. And honestly, at that point, I didn't know if I wanted to make it to my 30s. It wasn't fun. People think you go to bars, you drink, you're having fun. No, it's not fun at all. So I got to work and everything I could imagine. I went to my priest, I went to therapy, I did personal development, spiritual growth, metaphysics, all of it. I had this whole bundle of learning that I got from all these activities. And then when I went to film school, somehow in all this process, I was accepted into film school at the American Film Institute. And it was during one of these sessions. It's a very selective, very well-known conservatory for filmmakers. And it was during one of these sessions that we were talking about the characters and the plots and the themes and the happy endings and the miserable endings. And I went, hold on. Whew, my life is a story. It's not a great story right now. I'm on a path of destruction, but all that other information I had gathered from this work I'd been doing on myself, it's like I started, because when you start working on yourself, you look at the relationships in your lives and you look at all these things. Well, your relationships in your life are critical to your development. You see yourself in how people respond to you, and you see yourself in how life happens at that point. So I got to work. I started to map out who all the characters were in life. And
we're having a little bit of internet issue here, so hopefully this will work. Keep going. Losing you a little bit here, Carrie. Hopefully this will come back, because we're at a critical point in your story. Carrie, you were talking about being in your 20s and really realizing that in film school that you have the story of your life. Please continue with that.
Yes. The first step was I mapped out all the characters. And if you want to think about it, in all of our stories, we are the hero, right? We are the protagonist. Hopefully, you're the A-list celebrity star of your movie, but many of us aren't. Many of us aren't. So at that point, I wasn't. I had all these other
Mhm.
characters that I put above me on what they call the credit list, which is in movie terms, you have above the line credits and below the line. And I was below the
Mhm.
line credits where I gave all these other people power over me. So when I could map out these characters, that was the first step. And then I had to understand what was my true backstory.
Mhm.
And when I looked at my backstory and all the characters in it, because I think of it this way, when you're born, it's like you're walking into a play that's been going on sometimes for decades.
Mhm.
And you don't know the stories that people are playing. You don't have a script. At least in the theater, if you're coming on stage, you know the story, you have the script, you've been rehearsing. When you're
Mhm.
born, you don't have any of that.
Nope.
So your parents have a backstory, siblings have a backstory, your culture has a backstory, and you're born into this.
Mhm.
What do you do? The first thing you need to do, it's the automatic response that our brain is set up to do, our genetics is set up to do, is you need a sense of belonging because belonging equates with survival.
Yeah. Mhm.
And how do we know we belong? What are some of those factors? Same language, same beliefs, same
Mhm.
attitudes, same interests. So we start absorbing all this information around us. And in many ways, we start mirroring. You can't say rewritten. I can't say mirroring
Yep.
what's given to us. And knowing that we belong and we're safe, they're not going to kick us out because we're like them.
Mhm.
That's where we start
Yeah.
to learn to be afraid of people that are different from us.
Mhm.
This is where we learn to, if you're not like me, can I trust you? Am I safe around you?
Yeah.
Some of these ideas are not natural. When you say people with different skin color or different leanings should be feared or that
Mhm.
they're not as good as us and God said, no, God didn't
Mhm.
say that. It's a cultural experience that we learn.
Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about mirroring, that's hardwired into our brains
Yes.
that we mirror other people, even if they're smiling or laughing, and we do that. So, yeah, knowing that that starts as an infant,
Yep.
not only
Yep.
do we mirror it, we absorb all of this like a
Yeah.
little sponge.
And here's the key part. Before we have language, when we are pre-verbal,
Mhm.
and we're still learning to understand this language that's coming at us, it's a bunch of jumble of words until we learn English, French, Spanish, whatever your
Right.
language
Mhm.
is. The way we know what's going on is by the emotions.
Mhm.
We feel the anxiety. We feel the fear. We feel
Mhm.
the joy.
Yeah.
We feel
Yeah.
the happiness. And if your mom has postpartum depression, you feel that. And when you don't have the words, you fill in the gaps.
Okay, we're working on this and getting through it. You're talking about all of the wonderful ways in which our brain can and does absorb everything and rewriting things. We're going to be rewriting some of this as to putting it back together in a
Yeah.
coherent and understandable way, which is kind of what we need to learn to do, is what you're
hmm
telling me, and part of
hmm
your story. So please continue with that.
So the reason why I go into this kind of detail is because it's important to understand how this stuff got into us,
Mhm.
how we took on these false ideas or the wrong ideas. So what I was talking about was before we were verbal, we responded to emotions.
Mhm.
And if your mom has postpartum depression, you're feeling this anxiety, this fear, this lack of trust, this exhaustion. And your brain's an amazing machine.
Mhm.
And it loves to organize. It loves to organize data. And your brain is also designed for storytelling because stories are organized. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and an end. There's
Mhm.
characters, there's themes, there's plots. So your brain loves that structure. And your brain will say, I don't have that information. I don't know why this woman is acting crazy. We don't understand the concept of postpartum depression yet. I didn't understand
Yeah.
that concept until I was 60 years old. So as a baby, am I going to understand that? No.
Mhm.
I don't understand this concept of feeling this pain between my parents because they're fighting. So my brain fills in the gaps and makes it up because your
Mhm.
brain needs to organize it. So the most common thing that kids do is when they're filling in the gaps, they make themselves the reason why parents aren't happy, the reason why dad left, the reason why
Mhm.
they're divorced. And then throw in a bunch of other things like if you're adopted, that's a whole nother layer
Well,
of
yeah.
story. You don't
And if,
understand. Go ahead.
well, and if somebody says things like, if only you behaved better, or, something like that, it, if the child, me, you, we're going to absorb that and think, yeah, well, I'm the problem, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the
So,
reason.
yeah, so when you get older, if you hear somebody say, if your boss has a call as a meeting and calls everybody in but you,
Mhm.
here you are, 40 years old at a job, and your boss is having this meeting with all these people, and you're like, why am I not included? Did I do something wrong? Was I a bad person?
Mhm.
When in fact, it could have been that you were the only one that did well, so the boss was telling everybody else off. But we fill it in with old scenarios.
Right,
So
right.
this is the work and first of all, understanding that you have that issue. That's the toughest. And then we go on an excavation to find out where it came from. And that's where you look at what were your parents like when you were born? Well, I don't know. I was a baby. I don't know what yeah, you know.
Mhm.
You know because as you got older, they didn't change much. So, what was
Mhm.
your relationship there and your siblings? Were you the oldest? Were you the baby? Were you the middle? Were you a twin?
Good. Mhm.
What are all these dynamics? Because it all contributes to the story you're living today.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, you were talking about your story
Mhm.
and how you started to rewrite that
The first
in
thing
your
I did,
30s or 40s, whatever that was.
it was in my 30s.
Uh,
With my story, I had to understand why my parents rejected me.
mhm.
My mom rejected me and didn't feed me. So I almost died a couple times.
Oh.
So I had to understand her story. And
Mhm.
when I did, because I blamed her, I blamed my parents for everything. And in some cases rightfully so. There were sometimes they were just absolutely awful with me. But I had to understand why they were awful with me. And that's the key.
Mhm.
You can't change the behavior. You got to understand the why. So when I understood my parents' backstories, I felt so much compassion for them because they were first generation Americans. They came over just after World War One.
Oh, one.
And yeah, no, my father was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed, and it's so funny. Nobody asked
Mm.
me if he was killed in Pearl Harbor. I'm not that old. They're always saying, "Oh, did he die in Pearl Harbor?" No, I'm not that old. I'm old enough. I'm not that old. But
Mhm.
so he was 20 some at Pearl Harbor, but they were first generation. My dad was from Italy, my mom was from Serbia, and they
Mhm.
had these very rigid beliefs about family and what that all meant, and they never even should
Mhm.
have gotten married. My mom never wanted to marry, but you're supposed to. You
Mhm.
have to get married. Who's going to take care of you? So they brought all these stories, and then on top of that, my mom had mental health issues.
Mhm.
So all of that
Yeah.
contributed. And I felt bad for them because they lost an opportunity to get to know me. And I turned out to be really great, but they
Mm-hmm.
never got to know that part of me. And then they both
Uh,
died in their 60s, so they really never got to know much about me.
mm,
And they didn't have the tools. And that's when I said, okay, I understand this about them, but I have tools and I can write a different story.
yeah.
And if I want a story of where I have a happy ending, that means I'm going on a journey that will have challenges. You know, we don't take the hero doesn't go on a journey that's do 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 do. It's up and down, it's challenges, and all of that is forged to prepare them for this climatic ending.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I took myself on the journey. I studied, I got information, I continued with therapy, I continued with my metaphysical and personal development growth. And I practiced with new characters. I invited new characters into the story.
Mm,
And in that whole process, there was a lot of healing and a lot of changing. And now I'm in a beautiful home in Santa Barbara, California. I'm in a relationship. Before I met Simon, I never really dated much. I didn't trust people.
mhm.
Simon and I got together when we were both 55 years old, and we're celebrating 15 years together.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And before that, I never had a boyfriend. So to go from that, anybody who's in their 50s or 60s, there's always time and hope. There's always the story that you can write.
Yeah.
So,
It, yeah. One of my mentors was a man named Barry Neil Kaufman. And he said, this was probably, 20 plus years ago, when I was in um, a conference type setting with him learning. He said, you're never too old to have a happy childhood. And the first time I heard that, I thought, that's nuts. We can't change the past. No, you can't change the events that happened, but we can have absolute control over how we understand them and what we do with them going forward.
yes, yes, yes,
And
yes,
that's what it means to rewrite the story and to have
yes.
the happy childhood now that you didn't have then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have a happy childhood, but you wouldn't
Yeah.
know it to look at me. And
No.
I'll tell you what, one of the most heartbreaking times for me was Christmas
Mm,
because my family was always happy and celebrating, but I was always excluded.
mm,
So you know what I've done? I have made Christmas my thing.
mhm,
And now my family, and I created my own family with Simon and his son and my sister and our dog, who's really, I won't admit this out loud, but my dog really runs the household, and he lets
mhm.
us live here if we feed him what he wants and all that. But I build up our house into a Christmas wonderland every year.
Oh,
I
wow.
have I have a gnome village, and I always call them gnomes. I know I'm not saying it the right way, but I call them gnomes, and I have this whole elaborate village, and I decorate the yard and the house, and people will come over and say, "Wow, your house is always amazing." So I made Christmas mine, and I decided that something I love so much, I will always enjoy and give myself that happy ending that I
Mhm,
wanted as a child. See, stories kept me alive when I was in my worst part. When I thought about as a child, I couldn't sleep at night because all this worry and fear. So the way I
mhm,
self-comforted self-comfort, I didn't suck my thumb till I was 2, but as a baby, and I remember this, the way
mhm,
I could get myself to go to sleep was I told myself this story about my real parents that were looking for me. And when they found me,
mhm,
I would get all the beautiful dresses and I'd have my own bedroom with a wonderful, comfortable bed and
mhm,
toys and stuffed animals. And then when I could write and do that, I kept journals and I kept elaborating on this story of my real family coming to look for me. So as I got older, I created my own family with Simon and his son and my sister and the dog that I've already talked about,
mhm,
and decided I was going to build the life for us and for that part of me that was still that little girl who wanted that life So I would create that life for that part of myself that's still there.
Uh-huh.
And I honor my little child self and my adolescent self and even my 20-year-old self that they had the determination to make it through.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard in many places, and I've experienced this too, that those great pains that we experience in life, the bad stuff, whatever we want to call it, the difficult times, we can look at them as creating for us as a victim, or we can look at them as kind of like scars, battle scars of things we've been through, and places that make us stronger, give us greater insight, help us understand other people in other ways, and help us become resilient and build new strengths
Yeah.
that we would never have had we not gone through that stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you seen the movie The Martian?
No, I have not.
It's with Matt Damon,
Oh,
and they're on an expedition to Mars, and a big storm comes through and blows out the whole center. So they all hightail it to the rocket ship to go back to Earth. And they think Matt Damon was killed in this big
oh,
to do this event. So after they're gone and off the planet to avoid this problem, Matt Damon comes alive, and it's like he was just buried under and he's alive. And he's like, "What am I going to do?" They left, which was appropriate because that was the plan, that was the
uh-huh,
practice. And well, what am I going to do? So he first of all figured out how to take care of himself because his whole mantra during this time was, "You got to solve the problem."
uh,
You can't, if you want to focus on poor me or whatever, you're not going to happen. So you got to
uh-huh,
focus on solving the problem. And that's what he
yeah,
did, step by step. Each new setback solved the problem. He even found a way to communicate
uh,
back to Earth that he was there. And, there's some leap of faith and there's some plot holes. And if you've ever, I
uh-huh,
mean, I used to do story analysis for the industry. So it's like, well, that's unreasonable. Yeah, but, you're asked to step behind the curtain for a minute.
uh-huh, uh-huh,
So but his mantra was, you got to solve the problem. Every new challenge, you got to solve the problem. I'm not going to let myself fall into victimhood. If I have a chance of getting out of this, I got to solve the problem and keep moving forward. So even now, I tell people to look at crises and challenges as
uh-huh, yeah, yeah,
I just had a situation this week where somebody did something and I felt this enormous amount of rejection.
uh,
And I thought, okay, there it is. There it is.
yeah,
And I ended up thanking her. Not
uh-huh,
directly, but in my mind. It's like, okay, I was still holding on to this feeling of rejection from when my mom rejected me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
as many strides as I've made, there's still more steps I want to take. There's more places, more things I want to do. So that
uh-huh,
rejection, that still fear of rejection was holding me back.
yeah,
Now I've seen it. Now I can process it and work with it and move beyond it. You got to solve
uh-huh,
that problem.
yeah, yeah. And you talk about that. You thought you'd done all the work and gotten through that, but it's like I, I've thought about it like an onion. You keep peeling away the layers, a layer after layer after layer, and maybe, hopefully, someday we'll get down to the real core and be able to, be finished with it. But maybe not, and that's okay too. Uh, when we talk about story, most of us are taught that the story we tell has to be the one of all the success. It has to be, the wonderful resume, and that we don't tell the difficult parts. We don't tell the quote ugly stuff, the bad stuff. And I see we're getting a little problem with the internet again here, starting to. But anyway, but it's when we learn how to be able to tell the whole story.
I,
You're back.
I'm joining on my phone.
Oh, okay. That looks clearer. I was talking about story. So often we're taught to tell kind of the resume version of who we are,
Yes.
and that's us. But it doesn't share what we were talking about a moment ago, the hard parts, which are the growth areas. We want to share only the good stuff and think that makes us a better leader or a better parent or a better whatever. But it's when we share the struggles we've been through that people can understand us better.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when they see that, no, we're not perfect, which is why this is called the tilted halo, that we're not perfect, that we become someone that's more, I can follow that person. I can learn from that person. They can understand me
Yeah.
at that point too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you talk about helping people rewrite their story,
Hmm.
is that part of what you do with that?
Absolutely. Because here's what happens. You talk about getting the perfect resume. What about the person that's raised in a family that said you will become a lawyer? So you will
Mhm,
go to law school and you will practice law. And you, at the heart of it, want to be a painter.
mhm,
So you might practice law, but you hate it and you're not good at it and you never rise above associate.
mhm.
And your family's disappointed in you because you should be a partner by now and you should be. I
Yeah.
worked with somebody like that. And I said,
Mhm,
we have to understand where that story came from and
mhm.
why you accepted it.
Yeah.
You accepted this idea of who you are,
Yeah.
and you did not get a chance to find out what you wanted. You know,
Mhm,
I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and when the Equal Rights Amendment was really taking full swing then. I remember I was going to I was applying for colleges, which my parents were absolutely against. And you're not paying for it. What the hell do you care what I do? It's like, seriously. But well, if you're going to go to college, you have to become a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. What do you want
mhm,
to do? I'm not sure. I get a call from because I did so well in school. I had A's and I had strong SAT scores. I got a call from one of these women live movements, and they
mhm,
said, you should apply to be an engineer. Your math scores are really high. Why should I apply to be an engineer? Well, we have to prove that we can do the same job as men do. Huh? And I said, why didn't you call me and say, what do you want to do? No one had ever asked me, what do
mhm.
you want to do? What makes your heart sing? What makes you happy? Honestly, I took a degree in behavioral psychology because that got me out of my parents' home.
Ah,
That was the only reason. Now,
yeah.
I'm glad I did because it really taught me a lot more
Right.
about the human psyche. But why don't we, parents don't always talk to their kids about what they want.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kids follow through and build this great resume. There's another woman in our group, Leadership Global, who did the lawyer thing, became the lawyer, very successful, and then said, "Is that it?"
Mhm.
She says even it's so ingrained in her, the law, that it comes up all the time. But she's using it in a new way now.
Mhm.
And she said to me, "Do you think it's too late for me?" Hell no. And no hell. No.
Mm-mm.
No. You
Yeah.
can start anytime.
Yeah. There's wonderful examples of that. The McDonald's restaurant chain, the guy
Yeah.
who
Yep.
founded it, Ray Kroc, he didn't start on that until he was 54 years old.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and Grandma Moses, famous painting. She was in her 80s,
Yeah. There's
created a
there's
whole new style of painting.
and
Yeah.
my next book is called Age Rewritten. And
Mm.
in it I talk about how many of you are in the retirement years? Me.
Me.
And yeah, and I say somebody said, "Well, don't you want to retire?" It's like, "Well, what I do? Golf? I hate golf. I
Mhm.
don't have grandkids. I'm not going to take up knitting. I don't like to cook. I like working."
Mhm. Yeah. And the people who retire from and have nothing to retire to don't
Yeah.
usually live as long, number
No, and
one.
just as I was starting off my career, it was I happened to go to work at AT&T, which was crazy. And people were at AT&T for generations. This one woman, her grandparents and her parents worked at AT&T. They put in the 50 years, got the gold watch, did the whole retirement thing, and then proceeded to slow down and die in their 70s or early 80s.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'll
Yeah,
live that long. I know I'm on the ending side of life, but I'm having a heck of a great time before then.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm happier than I've ever been. And yes, even with all these issues. You said something earlier I want to get back to.
Okay.
Life is a journey.
Mhm.
Life is not about perfection. Life is about how you respond to what comes up in your life.
Yeah, yeah. And eh, what we're not usually taught as children is that we have so much agency and ability to
Yes.
influence that and
Yes.
to write that script and to rewrite the parts of it that maybe didn't turn out the way we wanted them to.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, I've told other people about part of my story that at about the age of 40, I was in the congregation that most people would have thought was a dream to be in. A new senior pastor comes along and a couple of months later says he's giving me the choice. I can resign or be fired. To me, that spelled in huge neon sign failure. And I had to deal with that because
Yeah.
otherwise I would never have stepped into another pastoral position. But I
Yeah.
didn't know what else to do either.
Yeah.
So, had to totally rewrite that script. And
And and it was
yeah,
probably scary for you.
it's horribly scary. Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary to think about giving up everything that's familiar.
Mhm. Yeah. And the denomination I'm part of, I couldn't just go out and hand out my resume and say, here I am, you know, hire me type thing. Doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. And
Yeah.
so, the thought of being out of a job for 6 months, a year, and as a woman in ministry at that time, it was much harder to get a position than men. So, you talk about people calling you and wanting you to be, an engineer. Nobody called me and said, you got to be a pastor. Somebody told me that that was now available for women, which was very different. And that said to me, that's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't tell me I had to do it, but that opportunity was now available.
Yeah.
And that was in the 70s as well,
Yeah.
and early 70s. So, we have that agency, even in your 70s, to do what feels good, to
Yeah.
do what gives you joy, to do what, to go the places, to find ways to have the life that brings joy and happiness,
Yeah. Yeah.
even within the circumstances that you're in.
Yep.
And that takes some navigating because not everybody's got the money to go travel the world, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But some people figure out how to do it anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I am always amazed and overjoyed to see the capacity of the human experience.
yeah, yeah,
What we can do when we put our minds to it blows your mind. It
yeah,
really is incredible,
yeah,
incredible what we are capable of.
yeah. And so you have a program that I want to let people know about where, we don't have to stay stuck in the I can't, I shouldn't, I'm not good at narrative or the world's always against me, it never works type of thing to help begin to rewrite that story. So would you tell people a little bit about that,
Yes.
please?
Yes, excuse me, I call it the Hidden Story Intensive. And it deals with the toughest part in the beginning of this process, and that is understanding the story, building your awareness of what that story is, and acknowledging that it is a story that you can rewrite. Those are the two trickiest parts of this is acknowledging it, awareness and acknowledging that you have this story. Because let's face it, we have been in this familiar mode of saying something external is doing this to me. It's in here, it's in your heart,
Mhm.
it's in your mind.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the part, the awareness, the acknowledgement. And it's amazing. Sometimes just the awareness shifts. Just
Yeah.
having that awareness can shift so much. Because let's face it, you stop feeling like you're a problem or there's something flawed or broken about you. I say this many
Yeah.
times. We are not broken. You are not broken. You are not flawed. You are not damaged goods.
Mm.
You
No.
may have bad behaviors. You may do things that aren't very pretty,
Yeah.
but let's look at why. What is the story behind it?
Yeah. And to let everybody know, I went through your 2-day
Hmm.
intensive, and even with all of the work and stuff I've done, because I've been through some of the things like you talk about before, that I still noticed things. And just that noticing, like you say,
Hmm.
is so powerful,
Yeah.
And the other day, somebody sent me a message on LinkedIn about something that helped me notice something else. And, that it begins a process. And
Yeah.
until we can notice those things and acknowledge that, there's nothing we can do.
Right. You can't change what you're not aware of.
Right.
You
Right.
can't work on you can't. Do you ever show up at a movie set where they don't have a script?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure you
No, but
have.
no. Oh no. No one
No.
would show up without a script. You can't do
Yeah.
anything if you don't have your script.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't move forward if you don't know where you are starting from.
Exactly. You got
So,
it doesn't make sense.
no, it doesn't.
You can't show up at a movie set without a script. You can't show up in your life without knowing there's a script.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, knowing that story, in this case from your parents and other family and culture and all kinds of things, that's a starting point.
Yeah.
And then noticing how we each have responded in the past to that script is critically important too, because otherwise we end up just blaming them or blaming somebody else, that it's
Yeah.
their fault.
Yeah.
But noticing how we've responded and what that means for the script we've been writing to that point,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
realizing we can change it. So I know that you've got an offering for this 2-day intensive that's coming up from the time we're recording this, and that will be in July and August of 2026. And so can you tell them the link? And we'll try to put that in the show notes as
Mhm.
well,
Yeah.
as well as a way to contact you if somebody finds this and looks at it after that point in time, so they can get in touch with you to see what else is available. But
Yeah.
please tell us the link right now.
The easiest way is to reach out to me via carriecasey.west.com. And that's CarrieKCWEST.com. My intensive link is intensive.carriecasey.west.com. That'll take you to a direct link to register and learn more. But carriecasey.west.com is the all my stuff, all my contact
Uh-huh.
information. You can always email me through there or just Carrie at carriecasey.west.com. I'm I'd love to get emails. I love to hear from you. I also have a YouTube channel that has all this information as well.
Yeah. And you're
So
on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn.
People
So
can,
come and find me. I'm here
yeah.
and I want to hear
Yeah.
your story.
Yeah. And your books, I
Yes.
assume, are available on Amazon?
Yep. Yep. Life
Okay.
rewritten and money rewritten.
Yeah.
I can say rewritten. That's why I don't call them mirroring.
Well, I think rewritten is something more people will understand than the idea of mirroring. So, yeah. Yeah. In spite of, or maybe because of the technology issues we've been facing, and this has been delightful, Carrie. And
I've enjoyed it. I'm considering you one of my newest friends. I can't wait
yeah,
to continue on this journey with you. Truly.
yeah.
Truly.
And I know you've got a couple of another book that's coming out soon
Yes.
too. Do you want to
Yes.
tell people what that is? Because it might be out by the time somebody sees this.
Well, Business Rewritten will definitely be out before somebody sees this.
Okay.
My partner wrote it, but it's part of the Business Rewritten series, and he's more the businessman in our group. And it's just about how businesses have stories too. And so
Mm-hmm.
and now they're being asked to change because of AI. So he's got a whole thing on that. And
Yeah.
then I have Age Rewritten coming out hopefully by September.
Uh,
Age Rewritten, where I
Okay.
talk about how these messages around what it means to be, look, our whole society is aging,
Mhm.
and yet people want to discount people over 55 years old, men and
Yeah.
women. We're
Yeah.
past our prime.
Yeah.
Nope, my prime
Yeah.
is right now, baby.
My prime is the only time I've got, which is right now. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah. And
correct.
I'll
That is
I'll just share
correct.
one little tidbit with you about that. My maternal grandmother lived to be 102.
Woo!
And at her 100th birthday party, the pastor who had been working with her for a while said that he had once asked her why she thought she was living so long. And her answer was, to teach my family how to grow old. And I love that. I love that
I love
idea.
it. I love it.
So
I love it.
those of us who are in what's called the senior years, we're still teaching.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we have an opportunity to teach some wonderful things yet.
Yes, we do. Oh
So,
my gosh, Kathleen, this has been amazing. Thank you
yes,
so much for
thank
having
you.
me
Thank you.
here.
Oh, it's been delightful. I think we could go talking for another hour or two, even in spite of the internet. So,
Yes, we'll do it again when I can figure out what the heck's going on around here. But
okay.
anyway, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank
this.
you. Thank you. And blessings to everybody who's watching too. So, until next time, there will be another time. So, thank you. Take care. You've been listening to The Tilted Halo for women of faith who know we're not perfect, yet boldly lead anyway. If today's episode encouraged you, please like it, share it, and leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss what's next. And for more tools, resources, and encouragement, visit me at KathleenAPanning.com. Until next time, keep leading boldly with faith, gratitude, and God's grace.